This is Stoicism's most important teaching. It's the dichotomy of control, distinguishing what we can control and what we can't control. This is such an essential thing to bear in mind in whatever you do in life. It doesn't matter who you're talking to, it doesn't matter what you're thinking about. You need to distinguish, can I actually control this? Can I actually have an effect on this thing that I'm aiming to have an effect on? Or is this just a waste of time? Because a lot of the time, we become so invested in things we just can't control. I'll give the example of people watching the news. A lot of the time, people are watching the news, or they're watching a football match and they're shouting at the TV. They're shouting at football players who've just missed an open goal. They're shouting at politicians who've screwed up a policy, and they get so vexed. But the problem is that shouting at that TV, shouting at an inanimate object, will not change anything. So we have limited hours in our days, we have limited energy, and distinguishing what we can control and what we can't control means we can invest all our energy and time, which is finite, into something we can actually control, something we can change. Epictetus, who was a philosopher who was a slave, who then became a lecturer, is the person that came up with this dichotomy of control. And he talks about the things that we can control are the internal things. He says some things are in our control, while others are not. We control our opinions, choice, desire, aversion, and everything of our own doing. We do not control our body, our reputation, our position, and everything not of our own doing. So as Epictetus said, we don't control external matters. We don't control what other people think about us. We control, the weather. We don't control, the actions of other people in general. So why do we try and control these things? And that's why it's quite a nebulous thing, because we can actually change certain things. Like we can act in a way that is conducive with people liking us, and which has an effect on our reputation. So we can kind of affect these things. We can affect our reputation, we can affect what people think about us to a certain extent, because we can portray ourselves in a certain way. So that's where the lines get blurred a bit. And for example, when you did an exam, think about your A-levels, you controlled the input, you controlled all the work you did, you controlled how well you performed in your actual exam, but you didn't actually control your results. And I remember those months of waiting for my results, anxious. But what I should have done is, okay, I feel like I performed really well, but the results are outside my control. They're not in my hands, so I need to give it up to fate. And because I could control it, but I couldn't at the same time. So that's where the lines get blurred. That's where people get confused. So we need to say, if with the example of the exam, yes, I can control what I put into the exam and how well, how hard I worked. But after that, it's in the hands of the examiners. There's clarity and simplicity. So once we know what we can control, then we don't need to worry about external things. And we worry about the externals all the time. We worry about death. We worry about what people think about us. And these things we just need to be completely indifferent to. And that's what the Stoics, like Epictetus, taught us, and Marcus Aurelius, who inherited that mindset from Epictetus. They just advised us to be completely, don't even pay it any attention, or any lip service, because we can't change that thing. But what we can change, as Epictetus said, is our opinion of that thing. So he said that it isn't events themselves that disturb us, but only our judgments about those events. So the way we interpret things, the way we think about certain things, is totally in our control. It's the way we think. We don't have to participate, we don't have to categorize these things in the way that society wants us to categorize our things. We need to train our minds to completely be indifferent towards them. In my opinion, a lot of mental health problems actually derive from worrying and being anxious about things that are outside our control, the external factors. I know this because I spent so much time worrying about death, when I'm going to die, how I'm going to die, is my friends and family going to die soon? And when I read meditations and when I started learning about Epictetus, I realised that I should be completely indifferent to that, because I can't control whether I'm going to die tomorrow. I can't control whether my family are going to die tomorrow. It's completely in the hands of fate. And once I clarified that I don't actually have control over death, then I just let go. and I started worrying about the things that I could actually change. What I can change is living for now, living in the present, enjoying every moment with my family and friends, you know, becoming the best version of myself. These are all things that are in your control. Not worrying about death, not worrying about other people's opinions. And I just believe if you guys can clarify where the boundaries are, from where you can control and where you can't control, you're going to be a lot happier and you're going to get a lot more done. You're going to be more self-disciplined, you're going to be more productive,